I used to believe therapy saved our marriage. My name is Claire. I'm 34, a public school teacher in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been married to Jason for 7 years. We met through mutual friends. He was charming, stable, everything I thought I needed. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were real. We fought sometimes, sure, but I thought that was normal. 3 years ago, after a particularly bad argument about his long work hours and my growing anxiety, we agreed to see a marriage counselor. Her name was Dr. Lena Moore. She came highly recommended and had this calming energy, warm, composed, someone who could make silence feel safe. From the very first session, Jason seemed comfortable with her. Maybe too comfortable. At first, I was grateful. He talked more than he ever had with me. Lena encouraged honesty and vulnerability. I finally felt like we were unpacking things we'd buried. I shared my fears, my childhood trauma, my self-worth issues. Jason opened up too, about stress, about feeling like he couldn't be everything I wanted. But over time, something shifted. It was subtle. Jason began dressing better for our appointments. He'd throw on cologne. He'd shave, which he barely did for me anymore. I noticed him laughing a little too loudly at her jokes, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in months. I brushed it off. I didn't want to be the jealous wife, especially not of a therapist. That felt ridiculous. She was there to help us, not harm us. But then came the late-night texts. At first, it was just, Lena says I should write this down, or Lena recommended this podcast. But one night I saw his phone light up past midnight. I reached over. A message. I can't stop thinking about our conversation earlier. It really got to me. Sent to Lena. I stared at it for minutes. My chest tightened. My breath caught. I felt my skin crawl. I didn't say anything that night. I couldn't. I was scared of the answer if I asked. The next day, I brought it up gently. Jason claimed they were discussing something personal he couldn't share with me yet. He looked me in the eye and said, Claire, I would never cheat on you, especially not with our therapist. I wanted to believe him. But from that moment, I started noticing more. Her lingering glances, his sudden praise for her insight, how she understood him. He started canceling our joint sessions but kept seeing her solo. Said it was for his mental health. One day, I called her office pretending to be him. I knew it was wrong. I was desperate. The receptionist confirmed he had an appointment that afternoon. I waited. I drove to the office early, parked far enough away to watch. I saw him walk in, fresh haircut, new shirt. 15 minutes later, I saw her arrive. Dressed casually. No clipboard, no laptop bag. She buzzed him in herself. That was all the confirmation I needed, but I wasn't ready to confront him yet. I needed more. Proof. I hired a private investigator. Within 2 weeks, he had photos. Jason and Lena, having coffee together outside the office, entering a hotel, leaving 2 hours later, hand in hand, smiling. My heart broke, not just for the betrayal, but for the intimacy, the ease, the happiness on his face that I hadn't seen in years. I didn't cry at first. I just stared at the photos. My PI laid them out like evidence in a courtroom. Jason's arm around Lena's waist, her hand on his chest, the way they looked at each other, like they shared a secret world I didn't belong to. I thanked the investigator, went home, and sat in our kitchen for hours. I couldn't eat. I couldn't move. The betrayal wasn't just marital. It was psychological. Lena knew everything about me, my fears, my wounds, the trust I put into her. She used it all against me. That night, I didn't sleep. I rehearsed the confrontation over and over. Should I scream, cry, throw his things out? In the end, I went quiet. When Jason got home the next evening, I handed him the photos. He looked at them, said nothing, just turned pale. You slept with our therapist, I said. He didn't deny it, didn't stutter, just sat down and said, it wasn't supposed to happen. I almost laughed. Wasn't supposed to happen? What was it supposed to be? I asked how long. He said 6 months. It started during our sessions, then turned into private ones. Emotional bonding, he called it. I asked if he loved her. He hesitated, then nodded. That was the dagger. I told him to get out. He begged to explain, said Lena had helped him see himself, and that their connection was deeper than therapy. I told him I hoped she helped him pack. He moved in with her a week later. I went numb. I stopped going to work. I couldn't bear the sympathetic looks, the whispered gossip. My therapist, who I had trusted with my soul, was now playing house with my husband. It felt like a Greek tragedy. Everyone around me had an opinion, but no one could feel the crater inside me. I filed a complaint with the licensing board. Lena lost her license pending investigation. Small justice, but it didn't feel like enough. She had ruined my marriage, and my trust in therapy, altogether. The nights were the hardest. I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder how I didn't see it sooner. How I let her in. How I let them win. But grief has stages, and after anger, after sorrow, came a strange resolve. I started running again. Joined a divorce support group. Slowly, I reclaimed pieces of myself. One woman in the group, Natalie, became my friend. She'd been cheated on too, by her fiancé and her best friend. We bonded over broken trust, over wine and late-night texts. Her strength inspired me. She reminded me that healing wasn't linear, but possible. And eventually, the day came where I could say Jason's name without flinching. I no longer cared where they were or how they were doing. They became background noise to the story I was rewriting, mine. A year later, I barely recognized the woman I had become, and that was a good thing. I had moved into a new apartment, painted the walls pale blue, filled it with books and sunlight. I fostered a cat named Mango who followed me around like a tiny, judgmental therapist. One that didn't betray me. I started journaling every day, pouring my pain onto paper until it transformed into something else. Perspective. People began to notice. "You look lighter," they said. "Like you're glowing." Healing doesn't mean the wound never happened. It means it doesn't own you anymore. Then something unexpected happened. I ran into Jason. It was a Saturday morning at the farmer's market. I was holding a basket of peaches when I heard my name. I turned, and there he was. Older, thinner, not in a good way. He looked lost. He smiled, tentative. "Claire, wow, you look amazing." I nodded, kept it polite. "How's Lena?" I asked, my voice neutral. He shifted. "We broke up a few months ago." I didn't ask why. I didn't need to. She changed after she lost her license, blamed me, said I ruined her career. I said nothing, just let him talk. She wasn't who I thought she was. Neither were you, I wanted to say. "I've been doing a lot of therapy," he added. I raised an eyebrow. "With someone licensed?" He winced. I deserved that. We chatted briefly, and then I excused myself. As I walked away, I felt something profound. Peace. I didn't hate him anymore. I didn't wish him well either. He was simply a chapter that had ended. I realized I didn't need closure from him or from Lena. I had given that to myself. That night I lit a candle, poured a glass of wine, and wrote a letter. Not to Jason, not to Lena, but to the woman I used to be. "Dear Claire," I wrote, "you didn't fail. You trusted, you loved. That's not weakness. That's strength. And anyone who exploits that doesn't deserve you." I folded the letter and placed it in my journal. A keepsake. A reminder. Today I've started training to become a therapist myself, not to fix others, but to prove that healing spaces can be sacred. That trust, when honored, is the most powerful thing we have. And if I ever have a client who comes to me saying they feel broken by betrayal, I'll tell them this story. And I'll say, "You will survive this, and one day you will thrive." Because I did. As years have passed since that betrayal, sometimes I still think about the version of me who sat in that therapy room, vulnerable, hopeful, desperate to fix what she thought was broken. I want to wrap her in a hug, tell her she wasn't crazy, that the little voice in her gut was right. We're taught to trust therapists. We're told they're safe, and most are. But Lena was a lesson, a dark one. She abused her power. And Jason? He chose the easy escape over the hard work of repair. But me? I chose growth. I look in the mirror now and see someone who rebuilt herself from the wreckage. I see someone who understands the difference between love and dependency, between vulnerability and exposure. I've gone back to teaching full-time. My students keep me grounded. Their chaos, their honesty, it reminds me that healing can be messy, loud, even beautiful. I've started writing a memoir, tentatively titled Real Lies. And yes, I still go to therapy with someone new, someone ethical, trustworthy, kind. It took time, but I learned. One person's betrayal doesn't define all others. Healing is possible, even when the wound runs deep. If you're listening to this and you've been betrayed by a lover, a friend, someone you trusted with your soul, hear me. It is not your fault. You can reclaim your story, you can survive, and you can thrive. Because I did. These are real stories, real heartbreak, real healing. If this touched you, like, comment, and subscribe to True Love Real Lies for more.